For language development today, boys and girls watching, and right here, boys and girls, we are going to talk about somebody in our community. We're going to talk about one of my favorite community helpers. Now, we have lots of community helpers, don't we? We have doctors and nurses that we've talked about. We've even talked about the police officers, and today we're going to talk about the firefighters. Who are we going to talk about? The firefighters. Maybe, boys and girls watching, maybe you know a firefighter. Maybe your mommy or your daddy's a firefighter. Maybe you have an uncle or maybe a big brother or big sister that's a firefighter. And we're going to talk about them today. Now, do you see this truck right here? When you see that truck coming down the street, you know that's the fire truck. What is that? The fire truck, that's right. And inside the fire truck are the firefighters. Fire trucks are also called fire engines. Who's driving that truck? The who? The firefighters, that's right. Their job is to fight the fires. When there's a fire in the house or in a building, then the alarm goes off at the fire station. That's where the firefighters are at the fire station. The policemen are at the police station. That's where they check in and they do their work, and then they get in their cars and they drive to where they need to be stationed at to keep our streets safe. Well, the firefighters go be in the fire station and they wait for the bell to ring. And when they hear that ding, 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 that means they have to hurry up. If they're upstairs in the fire station, they get to slide down this really cool fire pole, and they slide down the fire pole and they get on their fire suits that they have to wear. And we're going to talk about their uniform in just a minute. And then they get to jump inside their fire truck and out the fire station they come. And maybe you've seen that before. It's like they're in a garage, and that garage door goes up, and the lights start to go, and then you hear that siren, and they come out of the fire station. Now that siren, we've heard that before, haven't we? Maybe we're out on the playground, or boys and girls watching. Maybe you're driving down the street, and you've heard that, and it's like woo, 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 and you hear that, and then you see the lights flashing. And when you see a fire truck, if you're driving down the road, mommy has to what? Stop. She does. She has to get out of the way and stop. Just like when the ambulance comes, and they have to stop, and they make sure that you have to stop, and you let those fire trucks go because they have to get right to where the fire is. Now, sometimes a fire starts because maybe there was something cooking on the stove and it got burned, or maybe a fire started in the oven. You never know. Maybe somebody was playing with matches. Do we play with matches? No, we don't play with fire, do we? No, it is dangerous. We should never poke in a fire. If somebody's at a campsite and they're poking at that fire, we don't do that. We do not play with fire. We don't start fires. If mommy has candles, are you supposed to touch the fire in the candle? No, you shouldn't play around candles. Maybe that's what happened here. The children were playing and they knocked over a candle. We don't know why there was a fire started right here. But then somebody calls 911 and the fire trucks will come, and the firefighters will come too, and they will help to put out the fire. Now, maybe you've seen, boys and girls watching, out by our playground, we have one of these. It's big and red, and it's really hard, and it sits right in the ground, and maybe you have one in your neighborhood too. It is called the fire hydrant. What's it called? The fire hydrant. The fire hydrant. That's when the fire trucks pull up. Then the firefighters will take his hose and he'll hook it up to it. He'll turn it and twist it on, and then they will push the buttons on the fire truck, and they'll pump the water out of there. And then that's where they get the water out from the fire hydrant, and then they will be able to spray that fire and put the fire out, because that's how you put the fire out, is with the water. So if they have the water, they can do that. So that's why when you see those fire hydrants, you don't play around them. You can't play around the fire hydrant. Now you can see it and look at it, and you can know that's the firefighter's special tool. And buildings have to have one near it, and schools need to have one, and in our neighborhoods there's got to be a couple of them, so that when there's houses around it, they can get to it. And so you can't block it, you can't park by it and things like that, because if there was a fire, the fire trucks have got to be able to get near it so the firefighters can hook their, what are they hooking up to it? The hose. The hose, that special hose to spray the water, that's right. Now, do you see right here, it's just barely on our picture right here, but what is that? Boys and girls watching, you probably can see it better. What is that? Yes, it's a ladder. That is a special ladder, and it goes really, really high. It all comes together on the truck, but when they need it, it's able to stretch out, and it's got lots of parts, and they're able to get into a high building, or if it's like an apartment building, or maybe if you live in a house that has a stairs, 2-story or 3-story buildings, they're able to use those ladders to put it against the house, and the firefighters can climb up them really fast and be able to get into a window and get inside, climb over a balcony sometimes, or get into a window to get in there to get the people out and get you safe. So they need the ladders that are on the truck to help with that. Now, let's talk about his uniform right here. Do you see he's got that hat right there? It's hard. It's a hard hat. That keeps the fire from getting his hair and his head. Do you see this part right here? That's called a mask. What is that? A mask. So his mask, he puts the mask on first, and then his hat is called a helmet. What's it called? A helmet. Then he puts that helmet on his head, and that mask is connected to oxygen. What's it connected to? Oxygen. And what that oxygen does is it helps the firefighters not to breathe in all that smoke from the fire, because when you breathe in that smoke, it makes you go it makes you cough and you can't breathe. And if the firefighter can't breathe, then he can't keep you safe. So he has to be able to breathe. So the oxygen helps to clear the air and make it so that they can breathe and they can run in the house and protect you and get you out so that he can get in there and do his job and help you get out of there. So he has to have his mask on that's connected to his special oxygen tank that he wears on his back, kind of like a backpack. And then he's wearing his helmet right there, and he's got his fire hose. There's his fire hose. And now there's another, see how it's long right here? And it's going to be connected to that fire, what's it called? Hydrant. Fire hydrant. Say that? Fire hydrant. That's right. And so then they can put out those fires, and you have to stay far, far away. Once you get out of there. Now, at school, we have something called a fire drill. What's it called? A fire drill. And at home, you should have fire drills or fire safety procedures. Procedures are things that you set to decide what you're going to do in case of an emergency. So boys and girls watching, maybe you have these drills in place, and we have them here. Sometimes Mrs. Stewart goes, fire drill line, and we hear the announcement, and sometimes they make that noise, that woo, woo, woo noise, and then Mrs. Stewart says, fire drill line. Do we run and scream and yell? No. Do we push and shove? No, we go quietly, and we get our partner, and we go to the door, and we turn the lights off, and out the door we go. And we go way far out into our playground, our parking lot, so that we're far away from the building. Now, when it's a fire drill, does that mean there's a fire in the building? No. It just means that we're practicing in case there is a fire. Now, at home, you can do the same thing. If you have fire alarms, you should have fire alarms in your house. They're called smoke detectors. What are they called? The smoke detectors, and they will go off. Maybe mommy has opened up the oven before, and maybe she burnt the roast or something, or cookies, and then all of a sudden that smoke goes up, and all of a sudden you hear boop, 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 and it's super loud, and you go like this. Well, that's called the fire alarm. The smoke detector's going off to let you know there's smoke or fire in the house. And you should talk to mommy and daddy and have a way that in case that alarm goes off, you know what to do. Maybe you run out of the house and you go to the neighbors. Or maybe you run out of the house and you go to your mailbox or something. So you talk to mommy and daddy. Boys and girls watching, you talk to mommy and daddy. Maybe you already practiced special things to keep yourself safe in case of a fire. Those are called fire safety rules that you would have in place in case there was a fire. That's why we practice those safety rules here. A firefighter's job is so important, and maybe that will be God's plan for you. Maybe you will be so dependable here at school that you will be able to do your job as a firefighter, because the firefighter has to be dependable. He can't just go, oh, I hear that siren, woo, 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 and then just sit there and go, oh, I don't feel like it. That would not be dependable. Let's work hard and be dependable just like the firefighters.